It is an immense privilege to have with us Senator Bill Nelson from Florida. Let me just say that the Senator has been a great friend to the people of Puerto Rico, as well as a great friend to all U.S. citizens in our nation. You know, the Senator has had his eye on Puerto Rico and his constituents that have been from Puerto Rico for a long time now. He was instrumental in working on the task force for getting economic development for Puerto Rico in the PROMESA bill. So product of his efforts, we have a blueprint for getting a whole set of instruments of economic growth for Puerto Rico, and we thank him. But on top of that, I have to say that as governor, the Senator has always responded to our needs. He has always responded to our questions. There has always been an open door policy with Senator Bill Nelson for the people of Puerto Rico. And today, he, of course, didn't disappoint. Not only has he expressed his concern and his willingness to help, but he came over here to Puerto Rico. He came and he went not only to oversee what the damage was, but actually went to one of the most vulnerable areas in Puerto Rico, which is Utuado, and saw first sight what the extent of the damage is. Now, as has been in the past, Senator Bill Nelson has been a champion for Puerto Rico and a great friend, and now more than ever, we're going to need him and his colleagues to continuing championing our effort here. So it is a great privilege, a great honor to present to you a man that has been a hero in the United States. He has been an astronaut and, of course, now a great senator of the state of Florida, Senator Bill Nelson.
Thank you, Governor. Governor, thank you for your leadership and for your hospitality here. I didn't want to come on a congressional delegation. As a matter of fact, several times I've tried and was denied being brought to Puerto Rico wanting to see what I wanted to see, which was to get on the ground. And so today, I thought I was doing this last weekend, and that got canceled. So today I got on JetBlue, and thanks to the governor's office, his staff accompanied me over an aerial tour of the island, but you can only see so much unless you know about hurricanes. So whereas you have heard other senators that have come, that have flown in a helicopter and said they don't see a lot of damage, well, they don't know what's happening inside of that concrete structure that is wet, and now the mold and mildew is setting up, which was the case in several buildings that I went inside today in Utuado. And of course, you get on the ground in Utuado and you see the main river there. It's washed out a number of the bridges, but the people are very ingenious. They have strung a line with a pulley system, and what they're using on the pulley is a supermarket push cart, taking the wheels off, using the basket. And since the road was only opened a week ago, now volunteers coming up, putting water and other supplies, in this case on the pulley system, going across the river. But for 2.5 weeks, the road was not open. And so as a result, with the lack of electricity, except for what's being generated by generators, and the mold and the mildew sets in. I talked to a pastor. His church had held up. He has, where I visited, the one means of communication, because he has a dish on the side of his church, and so he is getting television. But all the rest of them don't have the communication. Right next to the church, a house that was on the side of the river, that house has been washed away, and only one part of the house is still clinging to the side of the hill on the river. And those people actually had to be rescued from the waters, and another one of the family rescued from the house as it was collapsing. This is the story that I will tell tomorrow afternoon on the floor of the United States Senate, because a lot of the reports that have come back have not told about the extent of the damage and how people, as ingenious and creative as they are, and still happy, are having to endure now 3.5 weeks after the hurricane what it would be there wouldn't be a lot of patience for our American citizens on the mainland for 3.5 weeks. And it's going to be a long time coming. So this is one voice in the Senate that will speak out. I believe I can speak for my colleague from Florida, Senator Rubio. You may be surprised. He's a Republican and I'm a Democrat, but the two of us get along. And Marco and I have been singing the same tune. We wanted to know why, a week after the hurricane, it was that we didn't have the military in place to do the distribution out into the other parts of the island. And it was that time, a week after the hurricane, that General Buchanan came in, and I'll be meeting with him in just a few minutes. So, first of all, voices such as Senator Rubio and I are going to have to speak out for the continued appropriations, the recovery money, and that's going to be billions. And that's just Puerto Rico. And then for the long term, you're going to have to remake a lot of the infrastructure. And that's where there could be a good news story. That in redoing a lot of the old infrastructure, that you can start taking advantage of technology and utilizing to build up a grid system and solar industry renewables that could ultimately make Puerto Rico a showcase for the rest of the country that needs to catch up as well on renewables. So those are my first impressions. I'm happy to take any of your questions.
Okay. Question, pose.
Hey, Senator Nelson, Arelis Hernandez from the Washington Post. The governor has talked about rebuilding Puerto Rico in a smarter way, and yet there are certain mandates that FEMA and the Army Corps of Engineers have in terms of reinventing the wheel and such. What will it take, either from the White House or from Congress, to give the Army Corps of Engineers and FEMA that new charge to think about things like renewable energy?
Believe you me, I understand the import of your question because I deal with the Army Corps of Engineers all the time on innumerable engineering projects in Florida. And they have their set ways, but they haven't dealt with something like this. And so there's going to have to be some creativity and some flexibility. I told the governor I will visit with the general, who is the head of the Army Corps. I know him. I deal with him all the time. And likewise, I'll be talking to General Kelly, the Chief of Staff, our former four-star head of U.S. Southern Command, which was in Miami. My wife and I have traveled with General Kelly when he was the commander. And he's a solid person, and so he'll get this as well. With regard to FEMA, we've seen FEMA have its ups and downs in past natural disasters. Certainly, Hurricane Andrew 25 years ago was a down, and then it came up in the hurricanes in the 90s until Katrina. and then it was a down. Let's hope this is going to be an up. And I have talked to the head of FEMA, and I'm going to see the Puerto Rican head here later this afternoon.
Noticel.
Good evening, Senator. Given the wave of immigration from Puerto Rico, Puerto Ricans to the state of Florida, what do you think the political effects of this will happen to the state of Florida? How much are these immigrants costing the state of Florida, and are you going to be allowing them any access, any helps for returning if they wish to return to Puerto Rico or to settle in Florida?
Tell me your organization.
I'm from Noticel, from Puerto Rico here.
Okay. First of all, they're not immigrants. They're American citizens. We have a lot of our Puerto Rican fellow citizens in Florida. Approximately 1 million, about 2/3 are in the Orlando area, another third in South Florida. Now, your question, what is the political impact of that? Well, if they will register to vote, which I'm certainly going to encourage, because I can tell you among the Puerto Rican community in the greater Orlando area, they have been very embracing of my public service. The question is, how many will want to register and how many will want to return? If they want to return, I certainly am going to support that. But the question is, when are they going to be able to return? When is the economy going to bounce back? Is the 95% of the electrical system going to be in place December the 15th? Or is it going to be longer? And what happens if we have another hurricane next year? Have we started to redo and renew the electrical system so that it is able to withstand another hurricane? Hurricanes coming, since I'm a fifth-generation Floridian, hurricanes are a part of our lifestyle. I understand that. But increasingly in urbanized areas, they are devastating. And especially when you take Puerto Rico's older electrical system, and then you pile on top of that the financial crisis of Puerto Rico. It could be a while coming before things get back. So I will certainly encourage our fellow citizens to return to their homes.
El Vocero newspaper.
I understand the governor said you worked with Promesa.
Yes.
Task force.
I was on the task force. Senator Rubio and I were both on the task force. This was the one that made some slight modifications, unfortunately. The modification that I wanted done, we could not get the Republican majority to do, and that was to stop the antiquated system of block grants of Medicaid to Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico ought to be treated on Medicaid like any other state, and yet it isn't. And a block of money was given to it, and that money is running out. And that's just part of the existing financial difficulties of the island before the hurricane ever came.
After what you've seen today, should Promesa be overturned?
Now, I can't speak to that. I just simply don't know the answer to that, and I know you'd like me to give an answer, but I'm not sufficiently grounded to, but I can give you an answer once I dig into it,
Miami Herald.
and I won't hesitate to.
Hey, Senator, how are you? Patty Mazet, good to see you. You mentioned you and Senator Rubio wondered why it took a while for more Army to come after the storm. I'm wondering, now that you've had several weeks to look into it, where do you blame some of the federal deficiencies in the response? Is it the White House? Is it FEMA? Is it DOD? Where were some of the deficiencies so as not to repeat it, like you said, if there is another hurricane, and so this doesn't happen again?
I will let Senator Rubio speak for himself, but his comments publicly have been very similar to the comments that I've made, and we have talked about it together. My observation is that for 1 week, the United States military was not here sufficiently organized with all of the supplies that were building up in the ports to get them distributed out to other parts of the island. I think, and what I've said here and what I'm saying now, I've already said publicly. I think when the three-star general, General Buchanan, got here, that started to change. And although I did not see U.S. military in Utuado today, I did see the Puerto Rican National Guard. And they were clearing the road, and they will ultimately be doing a number of projects like that. And so they were doing it and doing it very well. So I think for 1 week, we were not here, we were slow at the switch of doing uniquely what needed to be done. The most efficient organization in a time of disaster is an organization that is already capable of long supply lines in combat, and that's the U.S. military. And from my experience in the military and now as the number 2 on the Armed Services Committee, that's what we needed, and we needed it quicker than just a week after. But my hat's off to General Buchanan, because I think he started to change that and changed it fairly quickly.
Any other question for the senator? El Nuevo Día.
Good afternoon. My name is Gloria Ruiz from El Nuevo Día newspaper. You said a few minutes ago that you're going to have a meeting with General Buchanan. Can you explain your main concerns?
Well, I'm going to tell him everything I've told you. Sure.
About the delay or the response?
I'm all of it. I'm going to tell him everything. I'm going to tell him in detail what I saw in up there in the mountains.
We conclude with el vocero.
Al gobernador, hay la posibilidad de que continúe lloviendo, de que se acerquen más lluvias. Obviamente usted ha estado visitando, tiene los zapatos,
Sí.
ha estado visitando las zonas donde continúa lloviendo, sí, y donde han habido más deslizamientos y han tenido que limpiar constantemente. ¿Qué preocupación le trae la posibilidad de más lluvia y qué preparativos está haciendo el país para que no haya más muertes con esto?
Bueno, muy buena pregunta y atinada, ¿verdad? Nuestro llamado hace unos cuantos días es a estar observando los patrones climáticos, porque van a venir lluvias, y las lluvias que vienen ahora van a tener un impacto más fuerte que si hubiesen venido antes del huracán, ¿verdad? Por varias razones. Número 1, el suelo ya está saturado, lo que implica es que áreas, de hecho el senador vio un puente, ¿verdad?, que estaba ya poquito afectado en Utuado, que esa puente o esa vía puede colapsar, ¿verdad? O sea que eso es 1. 2, el que haya, ¿verdad?, el azote del huracán obviamente ha debilitado mucha de la infraestructura, y lo que necesita es un insulto adicional para poder seguir la devastación. Y 3, aún sin lluvia hemos podido ver cómo en pasados días algunos puentes pues no han sostenido, algunas vías han caído, ¿verdad?, particularmente en las montañas, pues por la condición del suelo. O sea que nuestro llamado a la ciudadanía es que tratemos estas circunstancias con seriedad, que si están en una área ¿verdad?, vulnerable, que busquen dónde puedan estar seguros, que cuando esté lloviendo, ¿verdad?, si no hay necesidad de estar transitando por estas áreas, pues que no lo hagan. O sea que sí hay una preocupación, y de hecho es parte del mensaje que discutimos con el senador. No tan solo las necesidades y los retos a corto plazo o lo que se ve, sino lo que puede estar por venir si no lo atendemos adecuadamente. Problemas de salud pública, colapsos de infraestructura adicional, ¿verdad? Hemos visto, por ejemplo, que el huracán Gran mayoría de las muertes provocadas por el huracán han sido por deslizamientos o personas ahogadas, etcétera. Y lo que queremos alertar es que en estos días van a haber unos patrones de lluvia que pueden ser significativos, que aunque digan 1 o 2 o 2 a 4 pulgadas de lluvia, ya el suelo está saturado, ya está vulnerable y puede provocar mayores daños.
We conclude the press conference. Thank you.